Sometimes you need to pause, a pause to listen to yourself. Let us not change our whole life in a day, but rather one step in a time. Welcome. Let's start from within. Hello, my dear Lora Polishchuk. Before we start our podcast, 1 hour talk between graduates and Dr. Avi Goren-Bar, and I can't hide that I am thrilled and pleased to have this first interview with you. I want to clarify the contract by posing 4 challenges. One, I wish our conversation will be absolutely symmetrical, which means I'm not interviewing you. We are having a mutual dialogue, and you want to know about me, whatever you want, and I will show curiosity about you. Second, I hope that we eventually arrive to a main theme where we'll go deeper. This main theme has not been decided previously and not even now, so it gives us a little bit of tension, and I like your smile. I want to invite us both to challenge each other. Previously, whenever we had talks, and we have had not few of them, we always benefited and expanded our boundaries. Let's keep it in this meeting as well. And finally, let's find a way to relate to the what I call the Jungian coaching complex. We will see where we can really reflect on it. And yeah. So here you are.
Oh,
Who are you?
wonderful.
Who are you?
Yeah, Avi, thank you very much for inviting me, for having me as your first guest. And for me, it is a great honor to be with you, really. And it is also a great pleasure because, as you mentioned, always the conversation with you is kind of game, and always something emerges. And I am also thrilled about what will emerge and what we will see, what will embody itself. So I'm very curious about what we will see.
Since our meeting today is not the first time that we meet, I can ask you and ask myself, what do we carry? What is the prejudice that we carry about each other from our previous from our previous interactions? Do you want to challenge me, or I will ask you how do you with what do you come to this meeting?
Yeah, I will share my feelings or my thoughts about this question. Because actually, I have the question in my mind also that you are, in my imagination, the person who has wonderful life experience, very different life experience, who has amazing professional knowledge and experience and a lot of certifications. And you know a lot of things about people, and from my perspectives, it can be both blessing and also kind of curse. And I come with the prejudice that maybe you know something about myself that I don't know about myself, or something that maybe it is wrong.
Out of my experience, usually it goes where I go blindly and you illuminate. Yeah, thinking about my question, you guys, for me, it makes me immediately cry. You're like my children. What drives me really is my legacy. And I interact with my students, and you're one of the very first ones, like a child. And as much as I do with my biological children, I let them challenge me, I let them shaken me, and I'm learning from their interaction. And in this sense, you're a very gifted child. I'm impressed always, not only by, and you know that I know about you few things, and mostly I don't know about you. I know nothing about your childhood. I know nothing about your schoolings. I know nothing about your marriage. I know nothing about your separation or divorce. I started to know you actually when the war in Ukraine broke out. Maybe you want to do a brief, survey about under the question, "Who are you, Laura?"
Hmm. Yeah, it's interesting topic, and recently I wrote the analytical biography, autobiography, as one of the exercises for future studying, and it was very interesting for me, and it was not easy to reconsider my life, my childhood, and my experience, and I was crying a lot. So it is very difficult to share my experience in few words. But what I really want to share is that currently I am trying to um, rebirth myself, reborn myself. So if you ask me about what stage of life I'm in, I would say that I'm very, very early springtime when everything is still cold, naked, the trees are without leaves and the ground is still very cold. But there are already very small leaves going out of the soil. And this is what I would say the main important topic for me, thinking how it will be. And it is also, if you compare, and I guess you believe already, or you already noticed it, that I had the same curiosity about what will emerge in our talk. So it is very synchronized now. And yes, I also have this knowledge and some baggage with me, but really I'm more focused on what is growing.
It goes in coaching aspect in the here and now. And I see that you are, I don't know if you manipulated or you really would not rather go into those chapters that made you cry, but I respect it. Um, and I join you because you know that at 74, it's very difficult to bring it into a summary, but it was a process that I think started in the corona pandemic when they put us in Israel in lines we were enforced to be vaccinated. And because our prime minister is a great trickster and maniac, he made this agreement with the trickster company. Anyway, we were forced to be vaccinated and we stood in line. And because I'm very intuitive, I felt that these lines are a beginning of fascism that escalated so rapidly with brutal attack on the Supreme Court of Israel, brutal attack on our democracy, and thereafter with the 7th of October and the revenge on the Gaza Strip inhabitants and everything, I found myself taking myself out for exile. So in this sense, I'm also born and okay, I don't think I have only sprouts. I've been working here in Athens for 15 years, and I don't know how the Creator sent me also a partner to life, and she helps me a lot. But I feel very stupid learning a language like a child, trying to read like a child. Don't know how is your German, but really it can be funny or humiliating, really. At the same time, I do other activities inevitably because of my health. I'm studying freestyle swimming, so I go to Colimvitirio, which is in itself difficult word to pronounce, and I swim there with the proletarion of, it's not a fancy swimming pool, although it's very clean, and I find myself as a little plant. Um, can you tell me a little bit about the here and now of your life now?
Yeah, can I ask you a question
Sure.
before I will come back? Yeah, because you mentioned about your relation to us as a graduates or students, that you feel like a
Children.
father for us. And I can relate. So I feel this warmth, this care, this teaching, also the experience and sharing of life experience with us. So I really feel you as a father figure. But at the same time, I'm curious whom you consider as a father for yourself from professional point of view. Is it Jung itself or himself, or it is somebody from your teachers or whom you are connected
It's a
with?
wonderful question. Thank you. Jung, for me, I perceive him intuitively. Sometimes I feel that I speak through his voice. Surprisingly, I haven't given myself the gift to go and see his home, his house in Kusnacht in Switzerland. I have to do it. But I have a mentor that I mention her name a lot. This is Ruth Netzer. And actually, we corresponded this morning and we had a telephone call yesterday. And let me tell you briefly, I've been 3 years in Jungian analysis with her. I came first to get her blessing for the coaching tools. She was shocked and resistant to show curiosity for the tools because she is a traditional Jungian analyst. But the more she softened up, she became extremely involved, very curious and supportive. 6 months later, I finished my analysis and we kind of searched for how do we reestablish our relationships. And I found that what I had in mind is not the lady that is interacting with me because she's lonely, she's elderly, 85, 6. She's very handicapped on her spine. Now in Israel, with all the deterioration of the country, and her parents are originally from Germany and were pioneers, immigrated to Israel in 1920 of the previous century. She was raised up in a religious kibbutz, very tough childhood. I find that she is enlightening my initiative, and at the same time, I find myself a great aid and support in her life. So it is become a friendly relationship, and she's my main mentor if we look for something official. But if we go deeper, Laura, I think that my internal guide is my creativity. My creativity throughout those years that I developed the method became a practice. And this practice, like a violinist who is playing, like a pianist who is practicing, like a painter, this creativity is in my service. And now we are working these days with Nino on the heroine quest. And we base the new tool on Morduch. But I wrote to Ruth Netzer, send me your English translation for the book, because there is an English translation for her book about the heroine quest. And to support me, she said, yes, it's not published yet by Amazon, but I will send you the drafts. And the moment I get Jungian wisdom, I start cooking. And this is my mentor. I start cooking immediately. I improvise and I see how we can benefit. And I'm very, very proud that our tools are very colorful, they are different more and more. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And here also, I wanted, so it is very much connected to what you said. And sorry, maybe I'm so leading or guiding this conversation, but I'm very curious. So you mentioned that for you, these Jungian coaching tools were kind of the embodiment of your creativity together with your knowledge.
Yes.
And if we are talking about the Jungian coaching school itself, what is it, what it is for you, how it impacts your life?
It's a big complex. The Jungian Coaching School has become an institute and challenges me to surrender and give up on controlling. And this reminds me of our dinner that we had in Zagreb. Maybe you will remind the audience what you told me about. But I, on the one hand, am very cautious about the development of the tools, but the business and recruiting students, Laura, nowadays, I don't even know the students. Can you imagine that beforehand? I knew each person, and it was very intimate relationship. Now we are targeting a population that I don't know. Sometimes I get to interview people that want to hear some extra information about the school. And the real challenge is to trust the process and to trust the teachers. I believe that our teachers are the main pillar of this whole empire, and we try to nurture them and to support them. Not always it is successful. Sometimes we have to substitute teachers, unfortunately, because the formula of being a teacher in this particular program online requires charisma, flexibility, um, knowledge that comes spontaneously because students ask questions. Sometimes they are curious, sometimes they are provocative. And on top, it's not teaching theory solely, it's theory that needs to be applicable. So you have to know how to apply the tools, and you have to know the corporate life and the individual coaching and so on. Yesterday, I said to my client that it's very symbolic that Moses took the people of Israel from Egypt land for 40 years in the desert so that the generation of the slaves will pass away and the young ones will be able to conquer the land of Israel. And finally, because he threw the Ten Commandments on the floor, God punished him that he will not go into the promised land. And he died up on the mountains of Jordan, seeing the land, the Holy Land. But then Joshua took the 12 tribes and they invaded the promised land. I feel that I'm standing there on the mountain, watching the potential of the Jungian coaching. I can imagine how powerful this method is. I got yesterday feedback from Michal Bialik, who develops the application for coach yourself through Jungian coaching, through artificial intelligence. Many do that, but ours is very sophisticated because it's based on my book. And I am withdrawing step by step slowly, seeing that it continues without me. In this sense, my students are the disciples and they will spread the knowledge. And maybe because you're very young, when you moved to Germany, you are in your second childhood. For me, this is a beginning of a departure.
Yeah. I can resonate, and I will definitely remind us both what we were talking about in
Yeah,
Zagreb.
remind us both.
Yeah, and I have a question about this also. So the conversation was very interesting, and we were talking also about the, let's say, side effect of being a student in your school. For me, the side effect, which is equal to the main outcome as a certification or the qualification, was the community itself. And I still believe, and it came through the difficult times for me also when the war started, when I lost my son, and the community and separate people from the community supported me so well that I would say it was the reason that I survived. So your community or the community which you started as a maybe Moses, but this community works the same effective or the same warm as the school itself. And regarding this and what you mentioned, I'm curious how this side effect will grow and how you see it now, because now you are not managing the community. I remember that in Zagreb, I told you that Avi, it is not your community. It is ours, and we are dealing with this, and it is growing. But at the same time, it was growing around you and your knowledge.
What?
Now it is different. So now you are not the center of this community anymore. How do you feel if there is a community still the same strong, And how do you feel your position in this community or your connection to this community?
To your last comment, I will answer with two questions. First, I'm very curious because I was not aware at all how you were assisted by the members of the community, and if you can just describe a bit what was the significant. I remember that I did a sentry that showed the catastrophe that Ukraine is going through, and we spread it. Thereafter, we looked for volunteers to coach and support people of your circle, but I was not aware of that at all. And you said that it really assisted you significantly. So maybe you can share about this. And the second aspect is, listen, what I do, and now we are planning to have our third conference in Portugal, in Lisbon, in a wonderful, mysterious castle that is called Sintra. And we will launch there the Heroine Quest, which will be a great application. And Nuria Mendoza and Nirbeno, who are both teachers and actives, will lead this conference. But please come up with ideas. When you ask me about how do I encourage and help extend the community, I get blurred. Maybe I'm too involved, too soaked, too in German it's ausgenutzt, overused already. So
Mhm.
tell me about the help that you got, and tell me ideas that you have about what is, and maybe we should discuss what is community actually. What is
Mhm.
community? Let's discuss. Maybe this is
Yeah.
the main theme. Maybe this is our challenge.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, so regarding the support, it was both psychologically and actually with some actions because that several people who live in Europe, not far from Ukraine, they suggested they offered their houses for me and my son. I didn't use it, but it was so amazing to have understanding that there are people who are ready to host me and to support me. And at the same time, I had regular calls in a coaching way and in a friendship way with some of the people, and it was really needed because at that moment for me it was so for example, Amy, she made amazing jobs. She just offered me the coaching sessions, but I was in my grieving process and it was somewhere very difficult to coach me. It was really some pressure. So I was in the therapeutical process also, but at the same time, she was caring about my ego complex and strengthening this. So it was amazing experience, and I'm happy that I have these people in my life, and I can be just in touch with them and just say hello, how are you doing, where are you, and shall we discuss something, have a virtual coffee. It is amazing. Yeah, and about the community, I was also thinking that for me, Jungian Coaching School and coaching experience in general became kind of transition from business to psychology. So yeah, I had a psychological background. I got the degree in university, but I used to work in the business. And slowly, I I started my own practice with the help of coaching. And it became the part of my practice. For you, I guess it is different. So from psychology, you moved to business.
Yes.
And for me, it looks like we met somewhere in the middle. We met somewhere on these transition points, and then something new were created. And I don't know if it is reasonable to manage something about community. I am curious, how do you feel connected to the community or not? Because now you don't see the students. How I feel connected to the community, now it becomes very individually. Now, when I have somebody, for example, when I was assisting some of the modules, I got connection to some of the students. And I help them with some kind of mentoring or coaching and coachee sessions. And we are just friends now. And we can also have some coffee virtually, or we can provide it to each other the coaching sessions also from time to time. But it is not a community itself already. So I am not very much into community anymore because I have some individual connections. And from this point of view, I am curious how it grows with the graduates from the latest generation, because I was in the first, it was in the beginning, and then I lost it. And now maybe people, they feel differently. And maybe this it could be a topic to discuss with them.
Lately, Ori, my eldest son, finds himself more and more involved in the Jungian Coaching School, mostly from content and intellectual challenge. He's in love with this. And he keeps telling me that as the school grows, we have to dedicate energy and thinking to use modern technology in order to create a active community, because he says that his impression is that people want to be involved. People don't want to get the certificate and disappear, vanish. They want a continuation. And after I will talk to you, I will meet with Charlie, who is located in the United States, and she is very enthusiastic. Now we have a new student, sorry, that is a medical doctor veteran from the United States Army and wants to work and to apply Jungian coaching with youth. And discrepancy gap between generations, parents and children, where the artificial intelligence is the young ones, they know how to use it, and the elderly ones are blocked and puzzled. And the more we will apply artificial intelligence in our tools, it will be a bridge for the graduates. So really, my metaphor that I'm staying on the border of Jordan and the people of Israel are conquering the promised land is where I think the Jungian Coaching School is from my point of view. The challenge is to find out those people who know how to create a virtual community that is significant to people. You were assisted personally. This is one option. Another option is to create groups that will develop tools. But I have a big shadow that I think I need to control in order to enable a flow of community activities in the school, and the shadow is control. If I let go totally, who will take it over? If I'm involved, I have to be dancing on my toes. So it's a real. But if we are practical, we have to create a committee of people that are involved with the question how to create community, and thereafter, I'm sure that we will come up with many ideas. If
Yeah,
the
I believe that there is a great potential in this community, but I believe that it could not be done artificially. It should grow, it should emerge itself. But yes, for this, the space is needed. The space, the virtual space or whatever, but it is needed.
Laura,
But
every
yeah,
podcast has moments of revelation, highlight, discovery. What do you think we have to focus now in order to arrive to orgasm?
I am curious about your control and about your shadow.
It's sadomaso.
Yeah.
You're curious about my control. My control is being is it initiates when I have an anxiety. It's an illusion that through control I can calm down my anxiety. And if you want to go spiral, okay, control underneath anxiety. What's underneath anxiety is the fear of death. I'm very busy with my death, to the point that I did my will in Israel. I want to be burned. I don't want to have a graveyard. To the point that I dialogue a lot with my heart. because I'm 6 years now past the open heart operation with the bypass. And I became on the death of issue very pathetic, because I say, if I'm dead, I'm dead. I mean, I jump to the pool, I do everything as if I'm in eternity, but I sense, my body tells me that it is, as Jung calls it, second half of life. Let's be generous. It's the last of the second part of life. And I think that this fear of death creates an anxiety, and an anxiety creates a need for control. And this includes also my intellectual property that I have. One day I said to Nino, okay, sit down. We have a weekly meeting, sometimes twice. Nino is our general manager. She sits in Tbilisi, Georgia. And I said, Nino, what happens if I pass away tomorrow? What happens with the business? And she laughed. She said, you think I didn't think about this question? She said, listen, I call your son Tom in London. I tell him, listen, give me 1 year. I will gather all the leaders. Tell them, let's continue 1 year without Avi, more of the same. And then let's decide how we continue. And her answer gave me the feeling that it will not be faded away. That somewhere there will be a continuation to this quest. And to tell you paradoxically, the moment I understood that, I lost motivation to push forward. I maintain what we achieved so far, but I'm not accelerating. Maybe we accelerate in marketing to get more and more students. But for example, the issue of community, I'm not surrendering to this topic, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very deep topic that you mentioned, and I guess it requires a lot of courage to talk about this even now, even though for you it is familiar theme, but it is not so easy to talk about this in public. But I'm also curious, if the Jungian Coaching School does not give you the feeling of that you need to push something. Is there is anything that you feel like unfinished in your life?
I wish it was simple. It's very, very complex, because I feel I live on contradicting energies. If you look at my calendar and you look at my events and what I do these days, including my new life with Zoe here in Athens, you will speak about a young man who is swallowing life. We go to concerts. I cook delicious. I invite people for dinners in my little apartment. We go on traveling. We will fly in 2 weeks to visit Ori in Venice. Thereafter, I will do a huge Passover in Israel for all my family. Then I come back. I will be 3 weeks in Zagreb, fly to Belgrade, come back. And there are two conferences, one for expressive therapy in November in Ljubljana, one October. I'm going to write now an article about the unconscious and the phenomena of Black Swan by Yusuf Talib. I don't know if you heard about this book, but it's about surprises that we never think to predict. And for me, this is such validation of the existence of the unconscious. So on the one hand, I am extremely active, and I buy garments, and I'm totally vivid. And on the other hand, there is something extremely private that has to do with where the self is. It's the domain of the self. It's that topography in the psyche that is extremely intimate, very silent, where I am looking at my life for perspective, and standing silent and helpless and passive, which is totally the opposite energy of which you will. And you told me something in our one of our talks lately that shocked me. Maybe you can resonate to this. You said, Avi, I was distracted. I was kaput. I could not have imagined such an option about you. And it was very challenging to agree, to accept that although you function so beautifully outside, plus your beauty and your intellect and all this, and I could not imagine how badly you were thrown into this place that I call the internal death that is there. Can you resonate to this? Please be courageous.
Yeah, with the tears.
I love you.
With the tears. Yeah. I'm also thinking about what you said, and this word unfinished, it's some kind of invitation for action. But what I heard from you is that all actions, there are a lot of them. But what is really unfinished is this silent self. And this is very intimate process. And this is what you also, what resonates with me when I met this death in me. I even had the kind of stories that I journaled. I made a lot of journaling, and one of the story was called "A Walk to Death," because I had a feeling that it is calling me and I need to follow. And then I had my own red book, my own conversation with the death, and it was also very powerful thing to do. And I guess this place is the same scary and powerful. And I don't know, so I'm very curious, and it is definitely not a topic for today, but I'm very curious, how do you feel this self there?
Do you
And it
know?
is also, for me, it is also very much connected to the Jungian Coaching School, because every time we try to help our clients to connect to that place, and that place is so much scary that it is really sometimes terrifying. And people are doing a lot of things to run away from there.
It reminds me when Jung speaks in the Red Book about the desert. About the desert. Everything circulates around this paradox of particle and wave, about this quantum, as we say that at the threshold of death starts, as long as you are physically alive, a very creative activity. For example, lately I draw more and more with oil, and I do portraits. Now I do my own portrait, which is amazing, because when you think about, I never thought about it, you do your own portrait. It's like you engrave your own grave, because the drawing will stay forever and I will go. So which picture did I choose? To draw myself. And when I draw myself and portrait, everything is so slowly, I think it's parallel to the rhythm of death. Really, because the hues are very, very tender, and you have to be very, very punctual. You don't have any fortissimo, any strong louds there. Everything goes very, very slowly, and it's very meditative. And you have to have a perspective to look and suddenly say, oh, something happens here. So it's more a dead live activities than like dancing or producing music. It's more stillness, which for me is very nearby to death. Paradoxically, this is the most lovable activity, even beyond sex, that I love, to draw. And I'm very lucky because I have a fantastic Greek teacher for painting. And he was my student in the expressive art therapy program. And I show him the parallelism between the psychological challenges that occur while you draw and life. Every dilemma, every decision making, every mistake, every game with light and shadow have immediate parallelism to our dilemmas in life. And it can be summarized by to be or not to be, to do or not to do, to be righteous or to become a fool. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we also talking about different things and your different personalities, and you're an artist, you're the teacher, you're the businessman, you're the father, the father literally, like a blood father, but at the same time you are a symbolical father for a lot of people. You are the lover, the partner, whatever, the human being. What is connecting all these identities in you?
My curiosity for love. You know, Laura, when I was not a brilliant student, I became wise only during my master's and PhD, most my elementary and high school, because I was very creative. I was not a brilliant student. I couldn't do what was expected. When I learn, I make love with the wisdom because I flirt by improvising the applicatory aspect of what I read. For me, love is a very complex milieu of interactions. It has to do with conquer and surrender, discovery and show off. Last comment, because we have to start landing, is that you said you're a father, you're a father, you're a father. And because I have many issues with physiological issues, I was encouraged by my partner to arrive to homeopath. And we had a long interview, 1.5 hours, and then finally said, but you seem a bit depressive to me, sad. What makes you sad? And I said, I didn't have a father. I had a father, biological father, but in Greek they say tipota, nada. I was my mother's son. So maybe this energy that you all guys feel that I'm a megalo baba, huge father, maybe it's a compensatory function. I know my boys and my daughter, they love me and we are good friends, but it was not enough.
I'd love you to feel all your father's love that you spread to your students. I would love to reflect it to you, that you can feel it.
You certainly give me always a very authentic demonstration of father-daughter relationship, because I know you love me, but at the same time, you stand by and you don't let me make stupid mistakes. And I thank you for this.
And I thank you for this trust also. And the last thing maybe I was thinking about the death and about the topic that for me emerged in our conversation, that death is some kind of needed thing. We need to become friends. We need to be curious about the death also.
Do we have
Because,
any
for
other
example,
choice?
yeah, because, for example, with our experience in our countries and with our exile to the other countries, we need to deal with this topic. We need to separate ourselves from the collective experience and to let us have individual experience. And from this point of view, our identity there is dying, and to let it die and to deal with this process, to make the rituals, to make the farewell, to say the last words, as long as it is needed. I am still mentally in Ukraine, even though it is already several years that I live abroad, and I'm still in this process. But it is so much needed that we learn how to transform from one shape to another, how to distinguish ourselves from the collective, that we need to become the friends with death.
Let me
With
just,
mortificatio, as you're saying.
yes. Let me resonate to this. Maybe it will be our final. Both our countries, Israel and Ukraine, it's very cynical because when Ukraine entered the war, Israel played a very arrogant role, blah, blah. Our president went to negotiate Putin. Yeah, never mind. Then we learned our own grief and our own disaster. And there is something that makes me very angry because, at least in Israel, what I see from my point of view, death is like a matryoshka, like babushka. The family that is hurt personally, the loss of a child, father, daughter, whoever died, is so kept intimate. Thereafter, on top of that, comes the media. This is a different death. It needs to be aesthetic death. They search for poems that they wrote, pictures that they were, whether they were handsome, gossip, and they make it like a vitrina. And on top of that, the big matryoshka is this filthy, the nation's grief, which I don't believe in that. Somehow, because I'm a psychotherapist or I care about the individual person, that their life was kaput. And I don't understand this voice that becomes immediately silent because of the grief and the humiliation of the loss. Lora Polishchuk, a beloved graduate, great lady, thank you for volunteering and having this conversation with me. Deeply appreciated.
Thank you very much for having me and having this deep conversation, not easy conversation, but I guess very important conversation.
I salute you. Bye, Laura.